What is destiny? The soul is infinite space and is always there. It is the eternal. It is the source of the infinitely small volitional point, which is our spirit. In and by itself, the soul and the spirit are one and the same, and that one is active when the other is passive. In a cosmological context, there is a sense of distance between them, and that distance is created by the relation to the finite world of objects and to other souls. The eternal soul is thus always present in the self. It is always active in either being simply present when it needs to be seen, or is desired to be seen, or it is active when it is called upon by the spirit, or the choice of the volitional self. The destiny, therefore, is the reunification of the soul and the spirit, and in the cosmic world, in the context of a finite world of structures, it is more complicated. That is, in the pure abstract context, the soul and the spirit are one motion and relation away from each other, and can easily oscillate between each other, between activity and passivity, and the division is undone when it needs to be, and it is divided when it wants to. In the cosmic world context, though, the finite world of objects and time create divisions and boundaries for the self to directly relate between its soul-spirit. More precisely, the volitional spirit in the body, or as the body, wants to create conditions for the cosmic human body to become a conduit for the soul. That is, the soul wants to fully incarnate into the body through the spirit. This is achieved by perfecting the body, by completing certain tasks, certain changes, which ideally speaking would occur by natural intuition and intuitive choices, if the volitional spirit would have its soul as its ultimate guide. Since in normal circumstances of today this is not the case, that the soul of the self is not the ultimate guide of volition, that choices are made by the spirit are not conducive to the soul's interest, that is, not in one's ultimate interest in the essential self. This occurs usually because of the volitional spirit usually waking after a set of already existing habits that have been formed, which these habits have little to do with one's personal soul's interest. These habits are formed pre-volitional enlightenment or revelation or awakening, and are usually based in survival mechanisms in the material and social context. But once the volition is discovered in the self, after its various degrees of discovery to its full absolute discovery that it exists, much time can be spent on trying to undo many of these habits, these old habits that are not conducive to the soul. And it's an undoing that tends not to be efficient in terms of time, or to put it simpler, despite the volition's awakening in the self, the choices that are made are still not fully towards the soul's and the volition's interest. Therefore, one's destiny is not clear, and it is put in question, if not completely lost in the understanding. Destiny feels lost. The destiny is the volition's tasks towards its greater self, the soul. These tasks, which would be easy in an ideal setting, require a change, otherwise in the embodied volitional spirit, to perform in order to journey towards the soul, so that the soul incarnates fully into the body through the spirit. When the soul and the spirit have fully incarnated the body and have achieved the state of ideal internal form and structure inside the body and its relation to the world, then the volitional spirit and the sentient soul are able to act freely within the world. This freedom is categorically higher in sentient awareness and in creative volitional power. This is also a freedom from being reactive from the finite body and active from a cosmic perspective of infinity. So, how does one complete one's own destiny? The general sense of one's great destiny is either that it doesn't exist, or that it is questionable, or that it is confusing to think about and therefore not worth taking seriously. There are two simple ways to bypass these problems. The first is to understand that the world is infinite, and that all finite things are a relation between infinities. The self is one of those infinities. The interest of the self is, therefore, to re-identify or relate back to one's own infinite nature, and that our own infinite nature has a part, our volitional spirit, which just needs to relate to itself to gain its power back. This is the awakening. After the awakening comes the journey to experience the soul's guidance, which always has its best interest for the self. That is, the best possible choices are to restructure the human body to become a suitable host for the soul. Understanding this relationship between the two infinite selves, that the soul is infinite space itself, and that the volitional spirit is an infinitesimal small point, and that the relation between the two is just to reunify through the power of choice and the sentient experience of becoming the best possible version of oneself. This redirects the understanding towards that knowledge that choice is real, and that it is naturally bound to the best possibility for one's own self. The second way is for the action and the choices begin with the journey for the body's transformation. Changes that are congruent towards the change of towards the best version of oneself, towards the grand ultimate transformation of the self in human form. This will begin the positive feedback loop between the volitional spirit, the sentient soul, and the human body. These feedback loops can be experienced, but certainly not limited to, as synchronicities, out-of-body experiences, positive premonitions, lucid dreams, manifestations, encounters, and the body simply feeling better. And the list is endless. So this feedback loop is basically the communication between the volitional self and the greater self as the soul, sending positive feedback, and that it is working, and the body also feeling healthier. This takes time, and insofar as the nature of the world is understood, patience will follow, that the world is infinite, and only good things come from this. The potential difficulties that might occur is a mixture of impatience and attachments to not beneficial habits. Difficulties can be eased by asking yourself the question what value those habits would have once you are feeling powerfully at peace, once you have completed your own destiny. And these difficulties can also be eased by accepting help by those who are doing similar work. It can be done alone, but we are not in existence to be completely and absolutely alone in existence.